Hello, good afternoon. On behalf of my sister, Allison Nissen, and myself, I'd like to welcome you to another conversation with Revel Coach. When Allison and I first started this whole journey, it was built on the simple premise of building a community of like-minded women where we could share ideas, learn from each other, and celebrate each other's journeys. And today's guest is Kathleen Schindler, who is general manager of Ascender. And I personally am so excited about interviewing Kathleen because I love Ascender and I love the company that started it, who she works with as well as Force Management. So this is a great organization dedicated to building a community around improving your organization's sales process, your methodologies, and helping individual sellers really get the results they want. So Kathleen, thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. I really appreciate you having me on and sharing my story.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with a little bit of information about you. How did you get onto this path of having a career in sales and starting this type of program?
It's really interesting. I loved the prep that you guys provided because I was like, oh man, I'm not great at reflecting all the time because I feel like a lot of us are on the go train. And so it was nice to actually over the weekend just think about how did I wind up here and think through it at some of like the pivotal points in my career. I've been around for a while. It's hard to say. It's almost been 20 years since I graduated from school. But I think when I graduated, like a lot of folks just wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go. So consulting was a great option and highly recommend that for folks that are, starting their career journey or looking for other opportunities. But spent a number of years with PricewaterhouseCoopers and the US firm in Australia and had a wonderful journey there, but then wanted to go back to grad school and make a career pivot. And I feel like grad school is like a green card for doing some of that. So it's the nice thing about school too is like just opening your aperture a little bit and being open to new experiences. So I took a course on impact investing. And the thesis of this class was actually, hey, build a business that generates financial returns for investors and does social good. And so that really kind of just put me a little bit on a different journey. And the business that we built was a vocational training program. It actually was running for about 7 or 8 years with my teammates in India. They went back to India after grad school. And so we impacted thousands of lives by giving them access to English language and basic trade skills because there's just a huge skills gap in that country. So that was really fascinating to see. I wasn't on the ground, but that really kind of motivated me in some of the work that I've been doing and building different parts of the force management organization over the years. So the latest one was around just, building this business line called Ascender. And it kind of brought me back to this kind of impact side of what I enjoy and do. And so the thesis around Ascender is around, having individual contributors, whether you're new to sales, interested in sales, you're looking to progress your career in sales, you can join this community. It's got, courses, curriculum as well, but it can help you drive to whatever go-to-market kind of role that you want to do in your career. And it also will help folks reskill. So if you're, looking for other opportunities, you can actually leverage this platform too to help move your life in a different direction. So bringing it back to the impact side. That was a little bit of a long-winded story, but it was just really nice to think through over the weekend about how the heck did I get here? So
yeah, well, it is so parallel to, your roots because while you went to PricewaterhouseCoopers, you then also joined a large firm with Force Management that has a very corporate structure, but then to have almost a startup within a company that's dedicated towards impacting people and helping them get started. Yeah. So
that's been so fun. Yeah, that's been like a wild ride the last year. And I want to give a ton of kudos to my partner in crime, Rachel Platt-Miller, who is a phenomenal marketer and writer. And she and I have been on this journey for over a year and a half together. And we've obviously added to the team, but it's been, probably one of the best experiences actually in my career is building this. Definitely some great highs and some real lows too, but it's been great.
So Kathleen, who is Ascender for? Is it for businesses? It's for individuals?
It's for individuals and early stage companies. So our traditional force management engagements have been for larger organizations with, sizable go-to-market teams, but we've tried to make this more approachable for folks that are trying to go through like product market and early go-to-market fit. If you're looking at, the growth of an organization. So helping to accelerate those stages so that they can, either have an exit or, whatever, if they're, profitable and things like that are very important to venture capitalists and private equity firms these days. So.
Great. So a lot of our viewers and the people that we have conversations with are entrepreneurs, and some of them are in that, initial stage.
Yeah.
So say they have a team of 5, 6 people, and they've got a product that they're selling, and they want to, they just basically want boosts in sales, or they just started and they're now all doing things to help grow the company. How would they engage with a sender? Tell me the why for a company like that size.
Yeah. So that's a great, I always, I love talking to the founders of these companies because they're so passionate about the problems they're helping their customers and the market solve. A lot of times they themselves don't have a sales background. There might be technical founders or, that might just be more their natural resting state. So when they bring on folks to their team, there might be a little bit more junior, a little bit more green. And so they can really access a lot of the great sales, point of view that force management has with a sender, get some core training. We do a lot of live events where they can tap into force management experts as well. So I think that it just depends on what they want to get out of it. But I think there's different venues for them to really get involved, ask questions, get certified in different areas of sales. So it really depends on where they want to grow and how they can leverage a sender to do so.
Yeah. And as a leader, they can have more than one person join it. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah. You can have your team join the platform and you can all go through the certification together. A lot of small teams are using some of our live events as more of like an enablement session. So we're doing one actually because everybody's selling to the CFO these days. We're doing a session this week, and actually one of our senders is co-hosting it too. So we're doing this big series every month. It's a different C-suite individual. So this month is the CFO. And again, like we've had a lot of folks, early registrants for this session because it's such a top of mind topic for everybody in sales these days, because the CFO is the ultimate economic buyer. It's no longer just the CISO or the CMO. It's a lot broader than that.
It always goes back to the money man.
It sure does. It sure does. I asked our CFO if she wanted to be on too, and she said, no.
That's great. So let's get a little insight here, because as you know, I love force management's work, and I love how you guys really craft messaging around value instead of a sales approach. So it's really not the traditional way we would think about selling. It's more of a, an outward in look and staying in the customer's pain for longer. But can you share just a little bit about the methodology and what you all try to elevate when you think about conversations around value messaging?
Yes, for sure. For sure. I always, especially too, when I talk to these founders about the business problems they're solving, and it's like, if you can attach yourself, we call it attaching to the biggest business problem, is probably one of the big components of the work that we do. Is like, what is the actual business problem that would cause that CFO to address it with or reallocate budget? So how can you, even if you can't fully solve those problems, how do you attach yourself to those problems as a seller? And again, you don't have to just be a seller, as a CS, customer success manager, whoever is engaging with the customer can really do a great job at this. So if you're engaging and asking great questions, I think you'll find your way to that big business problem that exists in those organizations. So, and if you can stay there a bit, with your champion, the CFO, with other folks, and build that consensus around, hey, this is a big problem that we need to solve. And, force management, or fill in the blank, other solution provider, if you're selling more technical products, they have a great solution to this big business problem that we're addressing. And, the way they went about this sales process was kind of unique, because it wasn't just a feature function product pitch. It was, hey, how are you going to help me get from point A to point B in a meaningful way for my business, for me personally, for my team. I think that really resonates with organizations when they're looking to buy these days. They're buying an outcome, but they're also, they're buying into this process too.
Well, I love just how you're saying it, because really at the end of the day, the person, I always say, like, if you think about a person selling to a building, not a person, there's rules of engagement inside those walls that we don't really know from the outside looking in. So if you stay connected to their business pain and the to try to solve, that person can quickly translate it within their building for them to come back like, yeah, we really need this, whatever the solution is. But if you too quickly to say, oh, we've got this feature, we have this, you kind of stay outside of their building. And so inside they're like, there's a product that solves it. They're like, yeah, we've heard that other one too. And you don't stay connected to their business pain, which means they're not going to put money towards it.
Exactly. And then the other big thing that I think we spent a lot of time on, or I in my previous roles at Force, I was part of the customer success organization. So one of our main goals was to also build additional champions within our customer base. So getting that mindset of like, who's going to carry the torch on your behalf internally. So like you said, inside the walls of the organization, who else is bringing those ideas and those messages forward and, selling when you're not in the room. So.
Awesome. Well, so I'd love to switch gears for a second. Yeah. We have a lot of people on our platform. They are building communities, and with the right community, you get the right level of engagement. And when you have people that are all in, they're all in. And it's just not easy to build a community. So it always feels like, oh, this would be great, but how do we get started? So in the past 18 months, I think you've been mentioning how much you loved it and how much you've learned from it, also ups and downs. Share with us, like, kind of your journey there, or any recommendations you have for somebody building a community.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, community building was the biggest unknown probably for us in this program, because, we've been doing trainings and we have tons of great curriculum. Like Rachel's amazing at content and writing. And so the biggest unknown for us was like, how do we build a really engaged community of elite sellers and go-to-market individuals? And so, we have a great head of community now, Joe Huber, who came to us from Sprout Social. But in the process of bringing him on board, I was, talking to a ton of different community leaders who had built different types of communities too. Some of them were, very open communities for anybody, even including non-customers, to participate in. The community that we're building is really for Force management and Ascender customers, and really getting them engaged and sharing success stories and sharing their career outcomes and just insights into what's going on in the market today. So, I mean, that whole process of, finding the right person to help us build our community. And I think we have a phenomenal community leader, Joe Huber, and I've learned a ton from him, and he's helped me also think about expectations. He's like, the first 100 people, the first 1,000 people in your community are hard. It's going to be hard. But once you get there, the flywheel starts to move and you get this really nice, flow of engaged ascenders. There's always going to be people just, reading. I fondly call them lurkers, just reading session threads, joining the live sessions, but maybe not fully participating. So, I mean, and that's to be expected. So he really set he really grounded me on expectations with building this community. But so far we've had awesome participation. Like I said, we've got one of our ascenders leading or co-hosting our event this Friday. So would love anybody else that's interested in joining this organization to reach out to, because would love to have more folks like that.
So what happens, for example, I have a son who graduated from school about a year and a half ago, and he is now on inside sales.
Oh, fabulous.
I mean, what would his journey be? What's the first thing people do? How do they get engaged? I mean, I am totally not sales.
What do you mean? Everybody's in sales.
Everybody might be in sales, but I'm not it's a different world, a different language.
Yeah.
And so what would somebody who's brand new to sales or not even sales, but somebody who's brand new to, they have a new product that they want to sell and get in front of people. What's their starting? How does it start?
I mean, so they can, participate with a sender in a number of different ways. Some people just love the live sessions. And so they're tuning in 2 or 3 times a month. We've got, our force management experts talking about, anything from like decision process, paper process, things that kind of like get tripped up in the entire buying and selling process. We've got, sessions on just the franchise mindset. So, hey, your son is in inside sales. He has his territory. He has, his list of accounts or things like that. What's your plan to make the plan? And like, what's your mindset? Like, what am I going to doing every week, month, quarter? Like, how do I drive this and really own this piece of the business and make it my own? So I think there's just tons of different ways to engage. Some people are like, hey, medic qualification, and Marcy knows this pretty well. She can probably do this better than me. Is a big qualification framework that's really common in B2B sales. So a lot of people gravitate toward that as well. So there's just a lot of different ways to engage on the platform.
And I'll jump in. So when I think about my nephew joining a career in sales, where he really hadn't had a sales background before, there was nothing really at a school that he had done that, but I think it's a great place to start for anybody getting out of school, because you have, whether you're an entrepreneur, everyone is in sales, but you start learning the language of your boss's boss. Like you start learning the language of what they have to think about, like the complex sales. So while you're being tasked to do this one inside sales, and you may have a script, you may have, very similar metrics of how many calls you need to do in a day. So it's kind of descriptive. But most people, like my nephew, are really smart and they want more than just that. So it's a starting place where a sender starts giving you the tools and information to think beyond your current role, so you can kind of see what else is out there. And I'm assuming that also would help people with like to the next level, whether it's in that company or to another company, because they start seeing processes that are out there.
For sure. I mean, I think your whole point on language is so relevant, because I think a lot of these folks are like, hey, I'm an inside seller. My sales cycle is like 1 or 2 weeks. It's very transactional, but now I'm actually in line to move into a commercial AE role. What does that look like? And what's entailed in that? And then there's also the jump to like, the enterprise consensus sales process too. So I think a lot of people, when they're looking at, hey, what's the next logical step in my career, they like jump into a sender and like start searching for, selling larger deals, or, like moving into a new enterprise sales role or things like that. And there's, the content that comes out on a daily basis that's relevant. And then also courses that you can immerse yourself in. And you can also just ask other ascenders too, like, hey, what are some ways that, hey, I'm at this juncture in my, career, and I have an opportunity to move in a couple of different pathways. Who's got some great advice? And people are willing to jump in.
Yeah. And that's what I liked also about it, is it's the mentorship between people, because everybody in this is kind of in this together. And there's a little bit of everyone's one step ahead of you. The chief revenue officer is not on a sender. Right. But it's kind of like the people within, or maybe for the smaller companies. So it's really people that are in it together that want to help each other, promote each other.
Yeah. There's requests in the community for like role play partners, and like, like they might be working on the biggest deal of their career. And they're like, hey, can I get a sounding board from somebody that's not in my company, that doesn't have a stake in this, to just give me some real great feedback on my next call. So it's really
the second kind of person. So I definitely love like the newer people in sales, or the people who get promoted. And then the second part is just that stressed out person. So the person that is a little bit by themselves, they've got heavy number, they've got a lot of, internally feeling that pressure, but needing some sort of, I don't know, a place to say, what else can I do? Like a fresh voice to help for new ideas. Talk to us a little bit about how you serve, that the individual sales rep that is feeling that pressure of hitting their number.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we do, I think, a lot of that in the community, because especially when you read the headlines and see kind of like, oh, layoffs are happening, and, sales cycles are extending, and like, it kind of weighs on you. And so we do have, actually we have a great part of our force management team, Cooley, who's a professor as well. And he's written some books on just positivity. in your life. And he's actually joined some of our Ascender sessions just to like, how do you present yourself? Like I should have started this call with like, what's a great thing that happened in like so far this week for you, Marcy and Allison? Like that, just having that mentality that you bring like to your workday, to your team can really make a huge amount of difference in your personal and team and work outcomes. So I think there's a little bit of that. It's like, what do you bring to the table? And we have a little bit of that in the community too, just for folks that are maybe just feeling it a little bit more this quarter than other quarters.
And it's kind of creating that, again, a community. It's creating a community where people just look forward to a place where they feel comfortable to be open and vulnerable and just what's going on. And, others are jumping in.
For sure. I mean, there's people who are like, hey, maybe I should have known the answer to this question, but I want to just throw it out there. And so I think people are definitely more vulnerable and are open, and they get great feedback and insights from the other ascenders when they behave in that way. So I'm like, it's really awesome to see.
And then the last persona that I see are those people in those really large organizations that might have had, so command of the message and the force management program is for some of the top, Fortune 100 companies. And it's a really robust, it's not sales training. It's really more strategy of communicating throughout the organization. So it's I can't recommend it enough. I've been with 4 companies now that have implemented that, but it is that Ascender is that model, but affordable for, the smaller companies or the people that might not have the budget for something that robust. And those are the same instructors that come in to Ascender as the guest speaker. So you're really learning the best of the best in a smaller community. So that's the other demographic. I like the people that like wish they had the money from the old company, but they keep the command of the message alive. And so this is one way of doing that.
For sure. I mean, we have a lot of alumni that are like, hey, I'm at a new company, but I want to stay tethered. I want to sharpen the saw. They use it like one guy's like, hey, I start my day with it in the sense that I'm pre-call planning with Ascender. I'm looking at my calendar for the day and I'm using it to make sure I'm on top of my game. So I love that mentality. It's like, I can always, just do that extra 10%, which will again, have an impact on their quarter for sure.
I just love how engaging it is with individuals. So the fact that it's working with the small business or the person who is newer to sales and not the one, everyone wants to be able to feel like they're competing with the big dogs. But when you actually get trained to compete with the big dogs, even when you're not, it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, I think I always love working with the earlier stage companies myself, just like, again, like they're just so hungry for a lot of different things. And it's like, they're so passionate about what they're working on and the, what they can achieve as a team and the impact they can have on the customers that they're serving. And so like the fact that they're gravitating here to help their team, achieve, that kind of greatness. Like, I think some of those leaders are really thinking ahead about, hey, we may not have a huge budget for enablement. We actually probably don't have enablement whatsoever. But this is going to be the first step of what we put in place. So we're, using a common framework around qualification. We're using a similar language. We got the same mindset, right? That outside in mindset is present. And we're going to be leveraging this to really drive our outcomes and hopefully accelerate some of the early stages of growth for our small team.
And you have mentioned before our call, so you, about really tapping into higher education facilities and working with them, and what would that look like?
Oh, we're piloting a lot of stuff. So the awesome thing about Ascender is like we're testing and learning and probably failing fast in a lot of areas too. And so we're working with a couple or a couple of universities actually this semester where their students, we probably have like 70, I have to check the numbers, but 70 students that are on Ascender right now using it for their sales and sales management courses. And so we would love the opportunity to like put it together more programs, work with innovative education nonprofits as well to help create kind of sales pathways for them. So I think there's just a lot of different venues for doing it in higher ed, in community colleges, and then innovative education space too.
No, that's
So-
really exciting. That is
So if
really
anybody
exciting.
has ideas that's listening to this, please reach out because I'm all ears. I'm like, I would love to riff with you on this idea.
Yeah, I think so. So if you were going to mention one thing you're celebrating right now, I mean, you kind of alluded to that earlier. What are you celebrating?
Well, it's ski season out here in Colorado, so we moved out
You're
here.
still walking.
Yes. Oh, I mean, that's been actually such a joy for us. Is like we moved out here during the pandemic and our kids were super young, but they started skiing that first winter we were out here, and it's just like the best family thing that we're doing, and that's all we do like pretty much every weekend. It's like you'll find us in the mountains on a ski slope, and the kids are insatiable though, which is so awesome to see. It's really fun.
That's so great. We grew up as a ski family, Allison and I, when we were little. And now we both grew up kind of in Florida and Texas, and we've got kids that don't own pants. So the ski thing, I mean, we've gone a couple times, but that's a lot of things you need to buy. It's not just
for sure.
jacket. It's
yeah. There's an investment for sure. But I mean, that was I used to race in college too. And it's my favorite thing. And it's just teaching my kids, it's just been a lot of fun the last few seasons. So we'll see where they end up. But so far they love it. So that's good.
Great. That's awesome. So with Ascender, I'd love to ask the question around price, just because as some people are watching, everyone's curious and they're like, oh, I'd love to do this, but they don't want to get their hopes up because it's out of budget.
Right.
Are there different price models that are for individuals or companies? How does that?
Yeah. So our standard plan for individuals is $500 and it's an annual subscription, and it has access to the daily content, courses. We have a couple certifications and we're building those out to this year. And then also the community and live events. So a lot of folks can, especially if you work for larger organizations, they have like employee development funds that people can tap into for some of these certifications that we have. So it's pretty approachable from an individual perspective. So I'd love for folks to hop on or ping me if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And
thank you for having me.
Of course. I love this conversation. I always love seeing you. And if somebody does want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to learn more about Ascender or to ask you questions?
Yeah. So ascender.co is our website. You can feel free to drop me a line. It's kathleen.schindler@forcemanagement.com. I know that's a mouthful. I'm on LinkedIn. So would love to connect with folks. And if they have any questions or I'm happy to have folks on the session on Friday, selling to the CFO. Again, we're doing a selling to the C-suite every month for the next 6 months. So we'd love to see you all there.
Well, that sounds amazing. And the price point is definitely something that's doable.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Be a good, hopefully Justin doesn't listen to this, but it could be a good little birthday or Christmas gift for us.
We do have people actually buying it for their spouses or their children.
Nice gift. Great. That'd be wonderful. Well, Kathleen, always a pleasure seeing you. And for everyone that tuned in, thank you so much for joining today's Revel Coach conversation. And on behalf of my sister, Allison, and I, we'd like to say goodbye and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.